Fraud is a constant headache for the states of Jersey police. Recently, a spate of Facebook property scams saw £22,000 stolen from islanders, with one family left homeless. Just the other week, the states of Jersey police announced that islanders had lost £600,000 to a series of cryptocurrency scams, with one family losing £200,000, their entire life savings. In this episode of Bailiwick Podcasts, I, Charlie Flynn, am joined by Investigating Officer Faith Shalamon, a financial investigator with the Joint Financial Crimes Unit, and Chief Inspector Chris Beechey, the chair of the Jersey Fraud Prevention Forum. We discuss the murky world of scammers, the impact they can have on everyday people, and just how challenging it can be to police this ever-evolving, truly global kind of crime. So just to start off with, I don't know whether it's worth you introducing sort of who you are and what you do.
Okay, my name is Faith Shalamon. I'm a financial investigator in the Financial Crimes Department at the police station. Previous to that, I was a detective in the police for 30 years, and I've just moved over now as a civilian investigator.
And Chris Beechey, so a chief inspector with the organisation. One of my sort of responsibilities is linked to cybercrime, cyber prevention, digital crime, that type of offence that sort of hits our radar. I'm also chair of the Jersey Fraud Prevention Forum, which hopefully you've heard about, in terms of a group of organisations locally that does everything it possibly can to prevent all of these types of fraud. And I have, similar to Faith, sort of 27, 28 years in policing.
And did you both start, off island or?
I joined the police in Jersey when I was very young, and I've just worked my way through. To now being a civilian investigator. I think, Chris, you were off island to start with, weren't you?
Yeah, I spent the first 3 years in Avon and Somerset Police, came over here, and actually the two of us paired a car
we did.
for a period of time on A shift.
In the early days, yeah.
A long time ago.
When we were PCs on shift.
Absolutely.
So the reason we've got you here is because you're both kind of intimately involved with fraud in Jersey. So, I mean, I don't know whether to start off with. It might be quite a general question, but I thought it might be worth asking, what is fraud?
Fraud, I guess basically fraud is when somebody, i.e. the fraudster, perpetrator, makes a false representation to somebody and induces that person to hand over money, assets. That's a very simple way of defining fraud, but it's a bit more complex than that, because there are very different areas of the fraud definition. But that's it simply, when you're defrauding somebody of their money, their assets, their property.
And I think linked into that, what we generally see on the island, and well, any jurisdiction sees this, is there's almost sort of two broad buckets. You've got the types of frauds and scams that the perpetrator is looking for a sort of an instant response to. So they're trying to increase pressure. They're telling the person, you've got to do this right now. And they present a set of circumstances where the person feels forced into doing something and giving over the money or personal data straight away. Then you've got those sort of longer term type scenarios where an individual or a group is prepared to spend time grooming someone, which is where we sort of head into sort of the romance type scenarios. So two broad buckets, quick and easy, where the fraudsters will try and do little and often in order to get sums of money, and then the more organised type of fraud that could take months, if not years, to get to a point where someone then hands over a huge sum, their life savings. We see all of these type of scenarios.
Yeah.
So I suppose in Jersey recently, we've kind of seen three broad types of scams have emerged recently. So we've had the online sort of Facebook property scams, which we've written about. There's also been these series of cryptocurrency scams, which have been particularly devastating. And also there's kind of this ever-present thing of romance scams, which are particularly bizarre to me. So I don't know whether it might be worth just kind of chatting through each of those in turn. So I suppose we'll start with the property scam. So I don't know whether it might be worth you kind of telling us kind of what they are and how they came about on your radar.
Well, to be honest, there's an endless list of scams that are out there. Online scams that people are falling victim to. From, like you say, romance scams, crypto scams, you've got investment scams, you name it, it's out there. But yeah, particularly the property scams that we've been dealing with. Well, I personally am dealing with the property scams in my role, and over the last 2 years, we've taken well over 26 individual complaints, totaling over £22,000. And I am actively investigating that, and we'll see where we go.
I wonder whether it might be worth you spelling out sort of how those work, just for the benefit of everyone listening.
Well, the ones I've seen and the ones I'm dealing with is people will understand on Facebook, social media. There's platforms, Jersey Rentals, there's rental pages that you can go on. And you know as well as I do, the housing situation in Jersey is not very good at the moment. People are desperate for housing, particularly people with no qualifications. So if a property comes up on one of these pages and they're interested and it's at a good price, they will message straight away, and then they will start speaking to the person who's holding that profile, usually by Messenger on Facebook. That's most of what I've seen. It's usually done via Facebook. It was initially done via the Jersey Insight, but they've placed warnings and things on their page now, so they've moved over more so to Facebook. And that's how they do it. They start engaging with the victim via Messenger. They gain their trust. It's very quick. Like Chris said earlier, it's a quick scam. They'll say to the victim, we have 30 people interested in this property, which is quite usual in Jersey. If you want to secure this property, you need to pay a deposit. And that deposit will usually be 1 month's rent. And you know as well as I do that a 1 month's rent can be £1,000 just for a basic, studio, 1-bedroom flat. And these people are so desperate, they hand over the money before seeing the property. And unfortunately, as soon as they hand over the money, they're blocked and the money's gone. And it's as simple as that. But the good thing is, we've got a good community here in Jersey, and people are becoming wise to these scammers now. So when these scammers come up and they pop up on Facebook, you get a lot of people warning others, don't engage with this person. He's a scammer or she's a scammer. We're aware of this. Don't do it. So what they're doing now is they're taking the comment section off. So people can't comment on the post. All they can do is directly message the person who's holding that page, that profile. So it's a direct message. And that worries me, because then the people out there, the victims, there's no way of warning them that this person is a fraudster. That's sort of where we are with them.
I think, and that's one of the key points there that Faith makes, is that fraudsters will try and take you away from common platforms. And that's one of the warning signs that we would always say to people. If very early in your conversation, whether you're looking for partnership, whether you've gone onto a particular type of site, whether you're looking for accommodation, if very early in the conversation the individual is suggesting that you go to a different location to have a conversation, or you go to a different site, or you hit a link, that has to be a warning sign for people. Because of course, if it was legitimate, then there should be absolutely no problem with continuing the conversation, continuing the chat about the particular rental, on that space where other people can see it. The minute someone says, look, just for ease, let's keep the conversation going, but let's go here, that has to be something that should be a red flag in someone's mind to go, that doesn't feel quite right. But of course, it's getting that message out. As Faith says, fraudsters play on emotions. They generally, what we will see is that the same tactics are used irrespective of the particular type of fraud. It just so happens at the moment, as Faith rightly points out, housing is at a premium in Jersey. Yeah. So the fraudsters will think, here's an opportunity. It happens to be to do with housing. We will create some urgency. We will say, if you don't get this, 30 other people are going to get it. So they're immediately playing on that emotion. The person feels forced into doing something and will become rash and will just do something that they wouldn't normally do. And when they look back on it, of course, it's then that embarrassment. Yeah. Why did I do that? I knew that was wrong at the time. I instinctively felt it was wrong, but I felt I had to. And that's exactly what they're trying to do. Then, of course, many people don't tell us. They're so embarrassed, we don't get to hear. 27 or 26, I can't remember what you said, is probably the tip of the iceberg. There's hundreds of these, but the vast majority of people won't put their hands up because of the embarrassment they feel when getting caught. And
that's sort of a message that I want to get across today, is if there is anybody out there that's been a victim of any scam, they need to report it, because we need to be able to build up that picture and be able to analyse what's actually going on out there. Because if they don't report it, we don't know.
And sorry to jump in, again, a good point was the community, the opportunities here in Jersey, genuinely feel, and talking to colleagues elsewhere, our jurisdiction has that real opportunity. Mention the Jersey Fraud Prevention Forum. You tell one of us around the forum, and we can get a message out to effectively everyone in Jersey extremely quickly. That doesn't happen anywhere else. Right. So we ask people to tell us, even if they just want to provide the basic details and don't want to sort of go into the full detail, but just letting us know that there is a rental scam currently happening and this is the site to avoid. That message can get out to there's 33,000 followers on the Jersey Police Facebook page. That's a third of the community. We can get a message straight out saying avoid this. And so it's all about, telling us that helps us to protect other people.
Yeah.
I wonder if you could just kind of very briefly spell out what the Jersey Fraud Prevention Forum actually is.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So it was a voluntary group set up probably 7 or 8 years ago now to look at the opportunities that we have locally to protect the community and protect the general public from frauds and scams. We have representatives from banking. We have the 3 service providers. We have Consumer Council, Office of the Information Commissioner. We have the JFSC. Effectively, anyone that we believe has a point of contact with the public and so can get messages out swiftly. Our sole aim is to point the public in the right direction to get advice and guidance. So the Fraud Prevention Forum has a website, and on that single page are trusted links that we would ask the public to use when they're looking for advice and guidance. And then, as importantly, if someone finds that they have either been the victim of a fraud or a scam, or indeed have picked up something that would suggest that is, could happen to them, also, to tell us. Tell any individual member of the forum, who can then get the message out very, very swiftly, and within a matter of hours can get that out to the broader community. Something that's happened over the last sort of few years. So when the fact that the island effectively has 3 service providers that deals with all communication traffic that comes into the island. If there is a telephone number now that we know is linked to a fraud or a scam, the 3 providers can block that number within a matter of minutes, which prevents the fraudster then making further phone calls. So these are the type of opportunities that we have locally in a small community with all the right people around the table to get messages out fast.
I mean, I imagine it must make their job sort of significantly harder if they're trying to defraud people in a particularly small community where everyone is aware of it.
Well, you say that, but these fraudsters, when we call them fraudsters, we're not looking at one particular person here. We're dealing with organised crime groups throughout the UK and internationally, and they're very good at what they do, and they will target all sectors of our community, all sectors of our society. Like Chris said earlier, our main aim now is really to get in there, educate and disrupt what these fraudsters are doing, and try and get the message out.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's interesting. You were saying before that a lot of people are often kind of embarrassed to come forward about these kinds of things. And I imagine that's especially the case with things like romance scams. So I don't know whether it might be worth you sort of explaining sort of how those work and how those kind of operate.
Well, basically, with a romance scam, it does tend to target the more vulnerable people. But not always, but obviously everyone knows, there's dating websites. People will go onto dating websites for company, and they'll link up with sometimes with a fraudster. And the warning signs you have to look out for when it comes to romance scams is they will move really quickly. They will want to move, as Chris said earlier, onto sort of a WhatsApp platform, and they'll start with really quick messages, and it will be consistent, and the fraudster will say they will become quite intimate quickly, and they will say they have strong feelings for that person, sometimes only after a couple of conversations. Now, what will happen then is as that relationship progresses, the victim then starts to trust the person more and more, and believes what they've got to say, and they start to their self-worth goes up. They feel wanted, they feel loved, and they believe what this person's telling them. And eventually, in my experience, what happens then is the scammer will say, my bank account's blocked, there's a medical emergency, I can't get my hands on any money, can you help me out, can you send me some money? And that tends to be their typical sort of romance fraud. And then over time, a victim can lose a lot of money. And it's very difficult to explain to somebody that they've been the victim of a romance scam, which is what Chris explained earlier, because of the embarrassment and the hurt that is behind that. But also as well, we need to realise that some of these fraudsters they're not trying to elicit money for their own personal gain. What they try and do sometimes, and people need to be aware of this, is they try and encourage the person that they've befriended to allow their bank accounts to be used to launder criminal funds through. So they will say, "Oh, my bank account's been blocked. And I really need your help. Can you please? I'm going to get someone to transfer you some money. Say, for example, 20,000. Can you transfer it onto this account?" And they are unwittingly then money laundering, and they are facilitating the flow of criminal funds. And that's another area that we're seeing as well now, because money laundering is huge. Yeah. And there's a process. A lot of the money laundering that I'm dealing with, fraudulent funds go over to the UK, and very quickly it's dissipated throughout internationally. And it's just the way the money flows.
I think that the dating sites were a godsend for fraudsters. They probably couldn't believe their eyes and ears when these things started to develop. Again, it's a different environment, same methods. Let's play on emotions. The advice and guidance that we then have to use in those particular circumstances, as you do with most sort of frauds and scams, is it's quite sad, but we're asking people to be suspicious. We're asking people to be really, really cautious, which again in Jersey, if you were a fraudster looking at Jersey, it's a low crime environment. Very little happens on our island in general terms compared to other jurisdictions. So if you're a fraudster elsewhere thinking, that type of community is very trusting. We are. We openly promote Jersey as being a safe environment, which it is. Don't get me wrong, it is. However, that does feed into a fraudster's plan on the basis it's very difficult for us to then convince people to be suspicious and cautious when they're dealing with someone people go to dating sites to trust people. That's what they want to do. They're looking for companionship. So they're immediately in the mindset of, in many respects, not really dialing into what the other person is saying. They're there for they're there for companionship, aren't they? And others. And so the fraudster has immediately got that hook. So we ask people to be suspicious and cautious. We ask people to talk to people. If someone finds themselves that the relationship is accelerating beyond that they would normally have expected it to do, rather than continuing and trying to deal with it themselves, of course our advice would always be talk to friends and family, and we see that where if that happens, the penny may then drop in those particular circumstances, and some people are disrupted. We know that some are not, and some get caught very, very quickly, and despite family and friends telling the people outright this is a fraudster, they often don't believe you. But again, that's because of the emotions, isn't it? Yeah. They're hooked. But our general advice and guidance around romance would be take your time. Take your time. Don't get drawn into other locations and other platforms that Faith spoke about. And if you are able to, if you feel able to, speak to your friends and family about the developing relationship, because it may be that someone who is not as emotionally involved will be able to go, that doesn't feel right. Yeah. That isn't what normally happens. You need to think about that, and then hopefully the person can sort of reevaluate where they are.
I mean, there's various red flags that come up when it comes to romance scams, and one of the big red flags is moving really quickly, declaring your undying love after 3 days, and then asking the person for money, talking about money, talking about investments, and anything that has to do with bank accounts or money is a big red flag.
Yeah, sure. And you mentioned it before, but it is important. There's always a backstory. There's always, I've got a problem.
Yeah.
It's I can't believe this is happening to me at this moment in time. How can you help?
Yeah.
There's always something there. There will be those that, you know, really in it for the long game. And I spoke about, swift or quick scams and then long-term grooming. And that does happen. And, you know, you can be looking at months where a person gets into position before they can start asking for money. More often than not, though, Faith is absolutely right. It'll get round to a money conversation because these are little and offens. They will be probably speaking to dozens of people on Jersey at any one time. And if one of them works out, then that's great. And then they'll just move on to something else. So make decisions quickly, trying to encourage people to do that. But if you possibly can stick to the, you know, talk to family and friends, stay on the platform and be cautious, it puts you in a strong position.
I mean, I think one of the things that's kind of the most shocking to me is you know, we all get sort of scam phone calls or scam text messages that are kind of, you know, out of the blue, just saying, oh, you know, give me your bank details, whatever. And, you know, it can be quite easy to spot. But I think the thing that's really shocked me since looking into these kinds of things is the level of commitment that a lot of these scammers will go into. I mean, you know, they'll completely, you know, take over a person's life.
They are absolutely relentless. And once they get their hook into someone, they don't give up. And even when the victim realises they've been scammed and they come to report it to us, the scammer's still there, still trying to ring, still trying to elicit money out of them. They don't care about their victim. Yeah. They don't care at all whether the victim's young, old, you know, wealthy, they've got children, they don't care. They will target anybody they can to get money. And it's awful. It really is, you know. It's a horrible thing that these victims suffer. So if we can get the word out there, all the better. Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, we've been talking about the property scams and you know, the romance scams, and those all seem to be targeted at kind of particularly vulnerable people. But obviously the last one we've got left to talk about is the cryptocurrency scams. And, you know, those almost seem like, you know, they're at the complete other end of the spectrum.
I mean, the cryptocurrency scams, I mean, I'm not a cryptocurrency expert by any means. I mean, a lot of people don't really understand how crypto works. But basically what's happening is, and I think with the economic climate recently, is people haven't been making money on their money, and everyone's looking for somewhere to put their money where they're going to earn interest. They're going to earn money on their money. And what's happening is some of these victims are on Facebook. Everyone seems to be on Facebook. And there's a platform for you know, making money through cryptocurrency, and they register online, and straight away financial advisor stroke fraudster makes contact with them and literally gains their trust. This is what we've spoken about before. You know, they move on, and then eventually they encourage them to transfer their money into crypto onto a crypto exchange platform. And then the fraudster will take control of that because the person who's investing doesn't really understand the way crypto works. And what will happen is the fraudster, financial advisor, will then come back, say, you've made all this money, you know, you're going to double your money, make it sound really profitable. And the victim becomes really positive about it. They want to put more and more money in. I mean, we had a family recently who lost just over £200,000. And this family was not wealthy by any means. They got sucked in. Unfortunately, and they've lost their money. The money went into crypto, and the fraudsters were able to get hold of that and transfer it out. And for us as law enforcement, it's very difficult to follow that flow of money. So our goal, you know, it's really important for us to try and disrupt the fraudster initially, because trying to investigate that is very difficult because you're dealing with people nationally, internationally, bank accounts, nationally, internationally. And for us to be able to follow that flow of money is really difficult. I mean, we try our best and we do what we can. You know, we are linked into Action Fraud in the UK, who are the sort of the UK Centre for Reporting Fraud and Cybercrime. I'm probably going a bit technical here, but that's linked into the NFIB, the National Fraud Intelligence Bureau, which we have good links with. So any information we get about UK offending, we build up that evidential picture and send it over to them. And then it's transferred to whichever force. But it's a process that takes time. Money can be transferred in an instant. You know, you transfer money in Jersey one day and it's in Hong Kong the next, or any jurisdiction. You know, it's difficult.
And the challenges with that, of course, because a lot of these frauds and scams that we've spoken about has a controlling element behind it, an organised group behind it. The technology is such that if the transaction happens to be routed through an unfriendly jurisdiction in the world, then trying to get that information back is often nigh on impossible. The thing with it's so easy for us to sit here and say, if something looks too good to be true, then it generally is. And this is exactly that situation. Faith has described it very well. People are struggling. People, are really struggling to sort of make ends meet. But again, it's the situation that has over the last couple of years opened up for the fraudsters. Yeah. They see this opportunity. There are lots of people out there that are, looking for a way to provide a better future for themselves, and it provides the perfect breeding ground for a fraudster who it's that hook. Someone says you're going to double your money. You just don't double your money. You can't do that. Yeah. If a fraudster says you're going to make 1% on your investment, no one's going to join up to it. Yeah. That's not what they do. They look for that emotional link that suddenly puts someone who is struggling into a point. And Faith's absolutely right. No, these are not just people who've got money to lose. Someone's got lots and lots of money. They will do their checks. They will do their balances. They will. Really understand crypto before they invest in it. Mm-hmm. These are people who are looking for that, are desperate and have to make some money or really need some money. They're the ones that the fraudsters are after. Yeah. They're not after people with lots of money. They're after with people who are prepared to take a chance. And that's where it gets really, really dangerous.
Yeah, I just want to cut in there, if you don't mind, talking about that, where people, will hand over everything. We've had examples of where the fraudsters have encourage the victims to go to a local loan company, get loans out, take that money and invest that in and send it, and they've lost that. Borrow money from friends and family. The fraudsters even tell the victim how to lie, give them a list of excuses as to why they need the money, so they're not telling the person that they need it to invest into crypto, obviously. It's shocking the ends that these people will go to, but like I said earlier, they don't care. They'll do whatever they can to get the money, and they don't care who they hurt. They don't care who it impacts. They just want to elicit as much money as they can, unfortunately.
I mean, it kind of seems to me that different frauds and different scams and things like that sort of tend to respond to the different sort of pressures that people are under. The economic pressures or social pressures. I mean, I don't know how true you think that is.
Recently, obviously, like I mentioned before, people weren't getting much return on their money. The interest rates were very low. So some people were looking to make, a quick buck, so to speak. So there were people out there, had a little bit of money they wanted to invest. And also people have got to be aware of investment frauds where you have cloned websites online, very professional looking. It has all the information on there you need as an investor. And if you don't do your homework properly, you're going to get caught. Because what happens is you register online on this very professional-looking website. Again, a financial advisor will call you, stroke fraudster. Really professional, send you authentic-looking documents, emails. They'll telephone. They'll telephone you. You can have conversations on the phone. And eventually, over a period of time, the person believes that they're investing, say, $20,000 into this investment bond. And it's not. It's a fraudulent bank account and the money's gone. And sometimes these are professional people that are getting caught out. You've got to do your homework. You've got to check on the FCA website because they have warnings and it updates regularly. So if there's a bogus website, and there's loads of them out there, I mean, it's endless. There will sometimes be warnings on the FCA website, what to look out for. When you're looking at the website, look at the address. Google the address, see if it corresponds with the business. Do your research, do your homework. And like Chris said earlier, get some financial advice from a reputable financial advisor. Think twice, think every step of the way, just research everything. Because everywhere you look, there seems to be a fraudster or a scammer somewhere. That's how I feel, but that's probably because I'm dealing with it every day. Yeah. But yeah.
And your point about trends is well made, or sort of situations that may be happening from time to time. So, for example, COVID, lots of frauds and scams around COVID. Turkey and Syria earthquakes, frauds and scams around that sort of situation. So again, it's going back to those emotions. It's playing on people's emotions, and of course, if you are often what happens is that the fraudsters, the groups, there are thousands of these happening, all automatic. So the organised crime groups will have the opportunity to fish. We've all heard of phishing. So it's getting thousands and thousands of hooks out there on any particular situation, hoping to catch a couple. So, and you can change this on a daily basis. So we know that fraudsters look at the news, they see world situations, and then will just adapt the model to fit that particular scenario, fire out thousands and thousands of requests, and it's the little and often scam that people will, and then they won't even think about the fact that they've been scammed. They might, pass £5 or £10 onto this effort. They may never know that their £10 has gone straight into a fraudulent bank account. They will think that they are doing good, but in the general scheme of things, they won't. So it's going back to what Faith says. It's check everything. You have to be suspicious. You have to look for. So if, for example, there were an earthquake appeal linked to Turkey and Syria, it's about doing your homework and you finding the official appeal as opposed to responding to something. This is one of the rules of thumb, is that change the communication. If you receive something saying, play your part in the Syria earthquake appeal, go to this link and pay now. Think, okay, I really want to do something about that. I really do want to help. So forget that piece of communication. Go on to Google or whatever and look up earthquake appeals, official earthquake appeals. Find the official appeal and put your money in that way. Do not try and avoid responding to those links that suddenly pop up in your browsers. If you really want to do something and you really want to give money away, which is admirable, by the way, and I think that's really, really positive, do your own research and make the donation in your way through the official website as opposed to responding to requests.
I think it's kind of shocking to me that these kinds of frauds and these kinds of scams are sort of lurking in places where you would never expect them. They're on dating apps, they're on Facebook. It's just bizarre.
It unfortunately it's a part of everyday life now, and as you say, they everywhere you turn there will be individuals seeking to exploit. They're looking for two things. They're looking for personal information that can then be used by the groups to for a whole range of purposes, but they're also then looking for your money, and so anything at all that seeks to gain either your personal information or your bank account details or indeed your money, you really should be thinking, is this legit? So, for example, lots of frauds and scams appear to come from legitimate companies, from your bank, or appears to come from your bank, or appears to come from a reputable organisation. Reputable organisations don't ask for your personal details. They don't ask for your money in they know it. They already know what your details are. Why would they be asking you for it? That's the sort of thing you have to think about. So if you are in any doubt at all, if you are contacted by your bank or you're contacted by HMIC is a great one. HMIC would never contact you and ask for your personal details. And, so if you are concerned or worried at all, stop the communication. Go and Google HMIC official website and contact them that way. Change the communication, because reputable companies don't ask for this information.
Obviously, you've both been in the business an awfully long time, and how have these things changed over kind of your careers?
Frauds are reported regularly. We have a large team of officers that are working on a daily basis with local, national, international money laundering and frauds. When I joined the job, it was a very small team, wasn't it? Yeah. Obviously the evolution of the online, the World Wide Web. That's just opened it up to online banking. I mean, like you can transfer a large amount of money instantly. You can clear out someone's bank account really quickly. You couldn't do that 30 years ago. It was a lot more difficult. So I just think it's just the evolution of technology that's made it a lot easier for fraudsters to defraud people. Unfortunately, you know, I just feel like we're just chasing all the time, because once you deal with something, then something new comes along, and you're always chasing that next sort of offence that's going to happen. But we're all qualified, we're all trained. You know, we're trained up we are getting trained up in crypto. I mean, I personally find the whole crypto currency evolution quite confusing. But actually, when you break it down and you actually look at it and you're taught it, it's quite simple, if that makes sense. But that's something that I'm learning personally. So
I think I'd echo exactly what Faith has said. I think it's what is absolutely sort of blatant now is that the opportunities for fraudsters are far greater than they ever were. You know, we shouldn't forget that 20, 30 years ago, a lot of frauds were committed by, you know, people knocking on doors, and that still happens. You know, we had some people on the island recently knocking on doors. Yeah. That still happens. Then we moved into, you know, telephone scams and frauds. That still happens. We know, you only have to sort of watch Panorama and various, you know, other documentaries, that there are banks of telephone operators in unfriendly jurisdictions that are sitting there and just chancing their luck. You know, making phone calls to Jersey that happen to route into Jersey. Someone will happen to pick up the phone, and then they have their script, and they will read their script. The script is very convincing, is very authentic. They will try and create urgency. They will tell the person, don't hang up, because, you know, this money is moving from your account as we speak. We have to stop it. You know, I'm an official person. You can phone this number. Well, why would you phone the number that they've given you? Because it's their person sat next to them in the room. You know, so telephone frauds still happen. And then, of course, as Faith said, you know, it has absolutely exploded with the advent of the internet. Internet is a wonderful thing. However, it has just provided a playground for fraudsters and scammers. And all that we can do is to continue to develop as an organisation. I mean, our financial intelligence unit and financial crime unit is the largest department we have in the organisation. So we continue to develop everyone that works in that department. And on occasion, we get fantastic results in terms of tracing money, returning money, preventing frauds, providing bodies of evidence that then enables either UK law enforcement or worldwide law enforcement to bring down these groups. Jersey plays its absolute part in that, and we will continue to do so. However, the volume that we're having to deal with means that we have to spend as much time, if not more time, on the prevention than we can on the enforcement. A cybercrime lead in the UK many years ago said, you know, the reality of the situation is it's now impossible to investigate our way out of this. We have to really focus on prevention, and that is what we do. Whilst at the same time having the resources in place that if someone finds themselves, you know, has lost some money, we ask them to do two things. One, contact your bank and contact the police, and then we will do absolutely everything we possibly can to help. Yeah. You know, no guarantees can be made, and we have lots of experience. Lots of resources in order to do that. But our message today is, you know, do everything you possibly can not to find yourself in that position.
Just as a slightly more personal question, I mean, I don't know whether there's a particular kind of fraud or a particular kind of set of cases that really affected you or you know, you found particularly sort of shocking.
I think it's I'm not really able to talk about any specific investigations, but I think all the frauds I deal with, every single fraud I deal with, there is a victim. Mm-hmm. Somebody who's been impacted by that fraud. And fraud can have a real emotional impact on some people. It can push people further into debt. It wipes out their life savings. You know, it causes problems within families. It lowers your self-worth. You feel embarrassed. You feel like you've been tricked. You feel quite alone. So fraud isn't a faceless crime. It impacts a lot of people, and that impact is quite severe sometimes. I mean, I've spoken about the property scams we deal with, the crypto scams we're dealing with. We've got invoice scams, we've got investment scams. We're dealing with frauds and scams on a daily basis. So I couldn't really go into any specific investigation, but yeah.
I don't think I need to add much to that. Fraud wrecks lives, and it does, and we see it in Jersey. And so anything that either the police or the Fraud Prevention Forum and others can do to prevent and to help people not finding themselves in that situation, we will continue to do so.
Yeah, fantastic.
Okay, great. And sort of as a final parting note, I wonder whether you should just kind of explain to people what they should do if they feel that they're sort of the victim of a fraud, and maybe just spell out how they can kind of better protect themselves from fraudulent activity.
Well, basically, if anyone feels that they've been scammed or defrauded, like Chris said earlier, straight away contact the bank, because the bank have their processes that they can follow. Then contact the police. Do everything you can to report what's happened to you. Don't be embarrassed. Come forward and we will help you as best we can. And like we say, if you're looking at an investment opportunity online or anything like that, do your homework, do your research, go on Google, see if there are any warnings on the FCA website. Just do everything you can just to double check everything and triple check everything.
And I think my top tips would be as simple as sort of avoid talking to cold callers, whether that be on the telephone or something that is just popped up in your browser. Do the due diligence that we've spoken about. Do your research. Fraudsters will often use a reputable name, so be very wary of that. Reputable people and companies don't ask for your personal details or bank account details. Don't be pressurized. They are looking to create confusion. They are looking to pressurize you to make a decision there and then. Be very wary about that. And if in any doubt at all, change the mode of communication. Halt either the phone call or indeed the environment in which you're sort of operating in. Change that communication in order to check. And unfortunately, be cautious.
Thank you to financial investigator Faith Shalamon and Chief Inspector Chris Beechey for taking the time to shed some light on the effects of fraud and how you can avoid it. To stay alert of all the latest frauds and scams, do visit the Jersey Fraud Prevention Forum's website. If you feel you've been the victim of a scam, don't hesitate to contact the police. Don't forget to visit bailiwickexpress.com or pick up a copy of your local JEP.